Oh, baby. Larry Brooks is at it again, man. Let's take our sights on to the New York Post and an article that was published earlier on the weekend by Rangers beat reporter Larry Brooks talking about the Connor McDavid free agency question that hangs over the Oilers' Stanley Cup run. I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute, this article's nothing to do with the Rangers, right? It's on the New York Post, it's Larry Brooks, it's talking about the Oilers and McDavid. What's going on here? And, look, the article will be linked in the description, but it's behind the paywall. It is the New York Post Sports Plus thing that they've got going on here. You can't read the piece unless you subscribe or if you try it for free and all that. It's behind a wall, so we're not gonna go out there and screenshot the piece itself. But I'm going to go over onto Spectre's Hockey, because yesterday's Lyle Richardson article, the Sunday NHL Rumor Roundup for June 1st, went out there and gave the little paraphrase as to what Brooks writes about in this New York Post article. So both will be linked in the description, but we're going to use the Spectre's Hockey note to get Brooks's thoughts across. Brooks writes in the New York Post asking the question on if Connor McDavid could become a Ranger or a Leaf next summer. Larry Brooks wondered if Connor McDavid would be, quote-unquote, more or less incentivized to leave the Edmonton Oilers next summer as a free agent, and, potentially, follow the Mark Messier route to Broadway with or without a championship. He also speculated that McDavid could instead sign an extension with the Oilers. Oh boy. Connor McDavid, Mark Messier. Are we really gonna start breaking into this topic here? You know, the folks who watch these videos, their ages are pretty diverse. There are enough folks that are under the age of 18 or under the age of 21, so I know that there will be maybe the odd folk or two who watches this video who doesn't really know much about the Mark Messier story. But there are a number of folks, a good chunk of folks who watch these YouTube videos who are in the 30-plus-year-old range. And I would assume that the majority of them, especially those who are 40 or 50-plus, probably know a thing or two about the NHL history books that some of these youngins might not be too aware of. The Mark Messier story and how he went from Edmonton to New York to, inevitably, Vancouver is one that I think is a very popular story, and the narratives with the Stanley Cup championships that he won with and without Gretzky and everything else in between there. Mark Messier was a very, very accomplished NHL player, one of the best of all time, who just so happened to have a terrible run with Vancouver that has folks on this side of the country totally hating his guts. But ultimately, Mark was a guy who went from Edmonton to New York, became a captain for the Rangers, won a Stanley Cup against Vancouver, injured Trevor Linden in the process. Okay, we gotta stop talking about Vancouver. Anyways, this is what Spectre's note goes out there and talks about, responding to Larry Brooks's question here. The Oilers of today are not facing the same constraints as they did when Messier left town in 1991. They're a contender with stable ownership and a state-of-the-art arena, playing in an expanded league with a 3-tier salary cap system and revenue sharing. This version of the Oilers can afford to keep McDavid in Edmonton, and there's nothing to suggest that he won't stay. Now, there is another article that is talked about in this Spectre's Hockey piece, Bruce Arthur of the Toronto Star asking if McDavid could go over to Toronto. But I wanted to focus on that Mark Messier angle, because the Messier story is so interesting, and I understand 1,000,000%. I am not the person to go out there and tell this story to the best capacity possible. Go out there and look for some documentary, find some other commentaries. Maybe the hockey guys got something up on it, because Mark Messier had a crazy good career as one of the best players in the league. He was on those Gretzky 80s Oilers teams, he had multiple 100-plus point seasons, and then, after winning the Stanley Cup on a Gretzky-less Oilers team, his 5th of 6 Stanley Cup championships, by the way, and, you know, there were some other layers to that. The Gretzky-led Edmonton Oilers of the 80s were so good, and then Gretzky got traded and Messier was left to lead on an Edmonton squad that was able to still win championships without Gretzky's presence there. But Messier inevitably took his talents over to the Blue Shirts and became a total legend in that organization as well. Could Connor McDavid go down a similar path? It was indicated by the Spectre's Hockey Note that McDavid, other than the idea that says that, oh yeah, Edmonton might not be a great place to live, other than whatever geographical biases that might exist with the area of Edmonton in Alberta, there is honestly no reason why Connor McDavid would leave. Unless he were just to straight up decide, hey, I just want to play somewhere else. I want to go to a more metro-type city. I don't like being in Alberta. I want to go to a big, high-rise area like New York, for example. That's like the only reasonable take, I would say, that exists in the conversation of McDavid leaving Edmonton for New York. The Oilers have a powerhouse team. They're so good. They're making the finals back-to-back years. There's going to be enough money to re-sign this guy. Players want to play for Edmonton. McDavid attracts guys over to the Oilers. Other guys are willing to take discounts to be a part of this fantastic project that Edmonton is building. And they have a really, really good arena. The Oilers are in a prime spot to keep Connor Mack. But at the same time, I'm kind of wondering, if this guy decided to pull the ultimate badass move and just move over to New York, could you imagine a team with freaking JT Miller and Connor McDavid on the same squad? Like, how interesting would that dynamic be? You know that JT Miller couldn't boss around or bully McDavid in the same way that he might have done to Elias Pettersson. But I do question just how far that intensity would go in that locker room between those two centers. And furthermore, there's already been a conversation or two that I've seen popping around about JT Miller in New York getting the captaincy. If Connor McDavid was with the Rangers, would he get that captaincy instead? I don't know, that's just an extra kind of thought process there. But the fact that we are now getting articles suggesting that Connor McDavid could pull a Messier, that is absolutely hilarious, and it's why I wanted to go out there and make this video here today. The big question: could you see Connor McDavid abandoning Edmonton and pulling off a Messier, whether or not the Oilers win the Cup this year or if they lose? There is a possibility that says that, hey, last year could be the final year of McDavid in Edmonton, unless, of course, the Oilers decided they wanted to trade Connor Mack if they figure out, yeah, wait, no, this guy isn't going to sign with us, so we have no choice. Obviously, they're not going to do that, but in a hypothetical world, anything is possible, right? So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this crazy, ridiculous idea. Connor McDavid pulling off a Mark Messier. Is it possible? How unlikely is it? And what are your thoughts on Larry Brooks for going out there and entertaining this thought process in an article? Yeah, look at me trying to deflect the blame here. Not like I just ended up making an entire 8-minute YouTube video about this topic too. But McDavid to the Rangers? Yay or nay? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.